Hello, it's AlinaGG, and I have a very special guest today, Elle McBride, Elle Louise McBride. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Yes, and you are a specialist in holding sacred space for women to really come back to themselves and do some deep healing work. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful, beautiful way to look at what I do. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, pleasure. It's just what I've picked up from what I've seen, and your retreats look amazing, and I imagine your sessions are amazing with havening as well, which is new to me. I've never really heard of havening until I saw your Instagram where you gave a demonstration on havening, which also really helps calm the nervous system down. Would you mind expanding on that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So havening is like giving your brain a really calming hug. It's a technique that uses touch. So often you may see people havening by hugging down their arms from their shoulders down to their elbows and just utilizing this touch. The other main touches are across the face, so from like the forehead down the cheeks, and then the third touch is the hands. And what this does is it produces a large amount of delta waves. So delta waves are our slowest brainwave that we have, often called the chill out brainwaves of the brain. And so in your brain, if you kind of picture your brain having two key characters, the prefrontal cortex is like the CEO, it's the logical thinker, and the amygdala is the emotional alarm system. So when we go through a stress or a trauma or something happens to us, the amygdala goes into a high alert system, right? And what this does is when then the havening comes in, the havening produces that calming delta state. And so your CEO, the prefrontal cortex, basically says to the amygdala, it's time to relax. You're safe and it's okay. And so this works that the amygdala permanently changes the way it responds. It's not like a child where you have to tell it 20, 40, 50,000 times to calm down. With this specific thing that you're working on, it will permanently change that response. So you'll feel calmer, safer, and more in control because we're creating a chemical change within the landscape of the mind. And I love science. I love understanding how the mind works. But often many of my clients will just say it's just miraculous what happens in the chair, whether that's in the chair in person or the chair online as well.
Wow, that is fantastic. I'm definitely going to try that. And I noticed on your social links, you've actually got a course, an online course for havening. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm the leading and Australian ambassador for self-havening. It is a wonderful program that I had created. And yeah, I am a big advocate for self-havening. I'd love to see it across schools and in corporate spaces as well. So yeah, watch this space really. There's so much more to come.
Fantastic. I would love to teach it to my kids as well. I mean, that's just such a, it doesn't take too long. It's tactile. I mean, it just puts you straight in your body. It just makes so much sense.
I had
Wow.
a huge win last week when a friend of mine was visiting, and she's a friend because she was a past client of our retreats, and she was going to catch up with another girlfriend that also had come through the retreat. And they were just at the park with the kids, and one of the sons fell over and hurt himself, and the other woman that was there that isn't the child's mom was like, it's okay, you're all right. And she said, do you want to do some havening? And the little boy said, yeah, I would like to. And so she was then able to facilitate havening in that moment of stress for him. And it was just so, she came home, she was visiting and staying with me at the time. And she came home, she said, Elle, like, I've got to tell you that I did havening on the little boy today. And it melted my heart so much knowing that, parents are really learning and going through, their own healing journeys and finding modalities that are helping them, not just so it can help them be a better parent, but and a better human, but it can also have these effects where they able to teach their children these self-regulating tools, which is just so awesome in my opinion.
That is amazing. That brings tears to my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, right. Because we do when we're a child and we do fall off the swings or something happens, we run to our caretaker and we say, mommy, daddy, auntie, grandma, whoever may be there, their caretaker, And usually they'll probably, stroke our arms and say, shit, it's okay, you're all right. Anytime I pick up a baby that's crying, I pat it on its back, and I give it that nurturing, that loving touch. But what happens is that when we kind of hit youth, and then we hit our young adults, we don't want people around us, and we're too embarrassed, or we feel like we're a burden. We feel like people don't care. And so we just are shutting out this help. And when you're on the other end, where you're trying to give the love, you feel rejected. So you stop offering love. And so we've just become so disconnected from human touch and human love. And that's why when people do come into the Enlightened Co communities, and, especially our retreats, where they're just met with unconditional love. And sometimes it's the first time in their life that they've had that. And so havening really works on that premise of, when stress happens, whether it's happening right now, or whether it happened a year ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago. I recently worked with a client, 67 years she'd been carrying the burden of a trauma. She'd tried many, many different things. And in the havening session, the freedom, you could almost see it just leave her. We call it a havening facelift, because after the havening, the lines, the stuff is just removed. It's free Botox, essentially, where we're just this freedom that comes from letting it go. But what we're doing is we're ensuring that the prefrontal cortex no longer has that as a lens to view the world in. And it's such a wonderful thing. The amygdala is permanently changed. That alarm system, the memory may still be there, but it's no longer alerting you to say, alert, get out of here, flee from this, just say yes to them, and they'll stop. We have this ability to re-regulate our system.
So powerful. Fantastic. Wow. And has it been around for a while, or is it, like, how long has this sort of, how long has havening been called havening, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, so havening didn't start as havening. Havening has started as amygdala depotentiation modalities. And so it expanded. It's now called havening, and has been, for the last 8 years. I don't know when it had the name change, but as long as I've known it, it's been havening, because we're creating a safe haven in the landscape of the mind. But essentially in the year 2000, it started. And it started with a conversation of Paul McKenna, who's UK's #1 hypnotherapist and very sought after practitioner. He went to Ronald Rudin with the essence of EFT and said, why is it that when I tap different parts of my body, it feels good? And Ronald Rudin, the creator, he kind of took what EFT had made, but again brought in that context of, why does, when the caretaker pick up the baby and nurture it, the baby stops crying? Then they went deeper into understanding, okay, well, what actually happens in the mind when we're traumatized? Why is it that two people grow up in the same household, or two people work in the same business, yet their experiences can be completely different? And they essentially worked out that there's 4 core things that are required. And so, it's, there needs to, I'll go into it. I was like, I won't go into it. And then I was like, no, go into it.
No, I'm interested. It's great.
There's an event that needs to take place. Something needs to happen. That event needs to hold meaning to us, whether that's the meaning that we gave that event was that we felt hurt, we felt embarrassed, we felt ashamed, we felt abandoned. Whatever the meaning is, we felt loved, we felt joy, we felt, just at peace within ourselves, we felt on purpose. So the event has meaning. The third one, which is a very core one, is the landscape of our mind. Now, at any given time, we're either in a state of feeling quite resilient. We're like, yeah, water off a duck's back, like that. I just spilt my coffee. Oh, well, I'll go and get another one. It's not really, things are just flowing. We're in that great place within ourselves and life. Or we're in a state of vulnerability. And vulnerability means we spill our coffee and we think, oh my gosh, I'm such a klutz. I'm so stupid. The world is against me. I just, we tell ourselves all of these stories, right? We go through events and we carry that shame, and it bombards that we start to tell ourselves that we don't matter, that we're not enough, that we can't go for that job because we could never do it. So vulnerable or resilient. And the last core one is a sense of inescapability. So inescapability is the core factor here of what makes a memory encoded as a trauma or just a bad thing that happened, right? Because spilling your coffee is a pretty bad thing that happens, right? Let's all agree on that, right? The coffee drinkers out there, especially the busy ones. But for us, it can really depend on the way that we're feeling at that time. You know, two people can be on a plane and there can be turbulence. One person will continue to get on another plane and won't have a problem because they're in quite a state of resiliency. Another person, that turbulence might be the reason they never get on a plane ever again. But if you look at, okay, well, what's happening in the resilient person's life, you know, they're probably, you know, on a good wicket, they're having a good day, they're, you know, in a great place within their life, you know, good things have been happening. And maybe the person that's feeling quite vulnerable is on a flight heading towards a funeral. Or maybe they've just had a really difficult conversation with somebody. Maybe they've had a really big tax bill that's come in and they're thinking, how am I going to make this ends meet? Right? So it depends when we experience the event and what meaning that event has to us. It will depend on whether or not we encode that as being an inescapable thing or a thing that we're fine in. And so there's a lot of cool things. So as a practitioner, when I sit down with somebody, you know, I'm looking for, okay, is there a sense of inescapability? And also what was going on at that time for that person in that event that took place? You know, it can be, you know, finding the root cause. And what I find with a lot of practices and for my own healing journey as well, was that when I would sit in the chairs with these people, it was often like, you know, the root would be there, the stem of the tree would be there, and they'd cut it off at the base, but it was the roots underneath.
Yeah.
Evening has this very deceptively simple and very safe and nurturing way to pull out those roots, but also to plant the rose bush. Havening is very wonderful for empowerment because in that space, what are we now choosing? Because if we, with a lot of modalities, and I don't mean, I love a lot of the modalities and I practice a lot of the modalities, but what I often find is that it leaves this space of people feeling more vulnerable. If you're going to give up a fear, if you're going to give up a belief that you've had about yourself, if you're going to delve into the world of unworthiness and work on why you feel unworthy, if you're not then filling that mind with affirmation of your worthiness, of evidence of your worthiness, the healing doesn't take place because your mind is giving up something that has been protecting you. A feeling of not feeling good enough, a feeling of feeling unworthy is protecting you. So therefore you won't go after the things that you want. It will keep, your mind will keep you so safe. So in order to give that up, what's the exchange? And this is what often happens in sessions with me, is that we tell the mind, you know, mind, I've been able to give up. You know, for me, I had a near-death experience and I drowned in the ocean, and I was met with God, and he told me my life had purpose, my life had meaning. When I received that message, I was pulled up out of the water and I was on the shore and I was alive. And that in that moment, had I been in a resilient place in my life, it would have shaped and changed my life for the better. But I wasn't. I was in a very vulnerable space within myself. And so from that vulnerability brought more trauma. It took me a very long time to work through that. But I share this experience because in the water, after 4 years, I still couldn't go in the pool. I couldn't go in the ocean. I couldn't swim for 4 years. I lived on the Gold Coast at this time, right? It was hot. All I wanted to do was go for a swim. And I couldn't. I'd sit on that ocean shore edge and I'd just bawl my eyes out because I wanted it so bad. Yet I didn't want to feel the pain and I didn't want to feel scared Because oftentimes when I would try, or I'd get to the edge of the water, I'd feel too scared. The fear would just override me that I couldn't take that next step. So something that I wanted, I couldn't give myself until I had havening, where I sat on the water's edge in this day, and I just said, you know, I'm so ready to let go of this. I'm ready to let go of this fear. I'm ready to not live with this fear that something is going to happen. And I sat on the edge, and I took myself through a very simple havening process. It's called event havening. You can find a process on my YouTube channel of event havening. And I sat there, and about 10 minutes later, I stood up and I walked into the ocean. And I walked past my knees, and I'm thinking, okay, the fear's going to come. You know, I'd been practicing havening. I'd been trained in it for about 2 months at this point. And I'm thinking, okay, the fear's going to come. It's coming. And I just kept walking, just one step in front of the other. No fear was presenting itself. I dove under the water, and I remember laying on my back, looking up at the sun, just fully immersed in the water, just feeling so safe. And then I was like, okay, I need to get out of the water now, because, you know, I can't trust, like, that was placebo, surely. You know, I'd seen wonderful things with havening so far, but this was a real test for me. And I remember sitting on the shore and drying, you know, and thinking, okay, I'll go and do it again. And I went and I did it again. I spent 5 hours on the beach that day. I just kept going into the water and just kept testing it. The joy in my life was just, you know, I still smile about it now, because for 4 years I just lived with so much fear. And that's my own experience, let alone the thousands of people that I've worked with since then. You know, the European trips that people have been on when they couldn't catch a flight from the Gold Coast to Canberra, you know, but then they're off traveling the world, to people that have been told they're infertile, to now having, you know, incredibly, you know, beautiful and natural births and having healthy, happy babies. You know, it's just the stories are just so wonderful. And whether that's been on one-on-one capacities or retreats, you know, there's just, yeah, thousands of lives have been changed over the course of the last few years. So yeah, it's just so wonderful. I don't know if you had a question. I know I love to chat, and so that was a lot.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. I know that was just so powerful. And, you know, I mean, I think the mind and the body, of course, are connected. You can't separate them. You know,
Yeah.
we're whole beings. We're connected within and to the divine and nature and everything around us. And, you know, it's not separate. We're not separate. And when we have that illusion of separation, you know, that is when so much loneliness comes in for people, and that is just heartbreaking. You know, I driving back home this morning, I noticed some homeless people, and I thought, this is why we need to do this work, because when people are in their hearts and they're, you know, they've done this healing work and they've overcome some traumas, and it's like there's potential for a whole different life, right? A whole different journey.
Community is everything. So,
Mm.
you know, we can often perceive, you know, those living without a home to be really unhappy. I got to tell you, some of them are happier than what the average person is.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard that. Yeah, I can understand that. But the guys I just noticed, they looked like they were pretty messed up, like struggling. Yeah.
And community is everything, right? Because did you know that an Army SEAL, right, a Navy SEAL, sorry, when they go out to sea and they go into battle, that their heart rate drops?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when a Navy SEAL goes in to prepare, their heart rate drops. They become more calm and relaxed, because they know that they are surrounded in the safest environment possible for them. So this is why community matters, is because that when we go through things in life, we know that people have got our backs, that we're going to be okay because we've got somewhere to go to. Yeah, our battlefield just looks very different. You know, a lot of people, again, like without homes, that they find the streets safer than what they would in a community. A drug addict will put a needle through their skin in the uncleanest conditions, because that feeling on the other side is worth going through the pain. You know, we do these things, we have these coping mechanisms to help ourselves because it feels safer, right? Those that are in the military, again, they feel safer when they're in those environments than when they do just walking down the street. Yeah. And to us, we think, oh my gosh, how is that even possible? Right. But it's, again, the CEO of everybody's mind is so different. You know, like my best friend loves dill, the herb, loves it. Oh, I couldn't think of anything worse than dill. I'm a no deal to dill, right? What we like is different. And that's okay. And that's why self-acceptance of self allows us to accept others. Self-compassion allows us to have compassion for others. Yeah, like it all starts with self, and not to the point that we become self-obsessed and egoic. You know, we get to have empathy and compassion for other people. You know, humility is a wonderful trait. Then we also get to love ourselves a little bit harder. Yeah, a little bit more, because we are so uniquely made. You know, you often hear me say, I see everybody, you know, all the strangers, you know, all the people that I will never meet and all the people that I have met as shiny diamonds. Yeah, just bright, shiny diamonds. But where are diamonds found, right? In the dirt. That's why I love the havening, because, you know, we're stroking our arms, but it's almost like we're wiping the dirt off ourselves. You know, we're getting rid of the gunk, the stuff, the beliefs, the thoughts, the stuff that isn't ours, and we're saying, oh, I'm returning back to that innate belief system of myself that I am enough. I've got a 2-year-old dog, and when he was a puppy and I brought him home, he would just look at me with so much love. Yeah, I could just squeeze him. Yeah, my good girlfriend recently had a baby. She's 8 weeks old. And every time I see her, I just think, oh, right, you are just so divine, right? Even when Jaira, my puppy, he would, you know, chew on something or do something naughty, and he'd look at me like, you love me so much. Yeah. Puppies and babies, they know that they are so loved, which is why they cry out when they're, you know, hungry in the middle of the night, because they know someone's going to come and tend to their needs. You know, Jaira would, you know, scratch at the door for me to open the door so he could go out and do potty. He knew that his needs would be met if he made a big enough hurrah. But for us now as humans, well, as adults, sorry, we now think my needs won't be met. I need to meet all of my own needs. There's no point in asking for help. But I want to remind you, just like a newborn that you've recently met, or maybe a child of your own, right? A puppy, you still have that innate belief system about yourself that you are worthy and deserving, that you are lovable. And my aim with myself, everything I do is for myself. And then if I can help somebody else, sure, why not? So my aim with myself was to love myself and bring myself back into that innate belief system that I was born with, that I am worthy and I am deserving. Yeah, one of my favorite affirmations is I am full of sparkle. And it just brings me so much joy to say that. I'm full of sparkle. It's a bit fun. It's a bit quirky. It's a bit different. Right? I'm full of sparkle. I am enough. I am capable. I am strong. I have a brilliant brain is another one that's very common that people hear me say. Because for a very long time, I thought my brain was stupid. I thought I was difficult and dumb and not smart enough. So, you know, through all the studies that I've done, I have a brilliant brain and I learn new things easily. I tell myself now what it is. I've become the parent. I've become the big sister to say, I matter. And I know that I matter. And it's not an egoic thing. It's not a toxic positivity thing. I know I am enough. It is an unshakable thing in my life. So when things happen, some of the best things of my life haven't happened yet, and some of the hardest days of my life are still ahead as well. But throughout it all, even in my hardest, darkest, feralest, craziest moments, because I'm all those things as well, I'm still enough. Yeah. And so it's this unpacking and repacking, getting rid of the old stuff, but putting in the good. Get rid of it, put it in, get rid of it, put it in. And it has to be this seesaw, because what a lot of people do is they try and get rid of everything. Yeah. And what does that do, right? The seesaw, boom, the good's gone as well. And then we're left with empty vessels going, I don't know who I am now. I don't know who I am. And they've told me that now in this personal development, I need to go and sign up for this next thing. I need to go and invest in this next thing. I need to go and do the more healing and more healing. And no, you are enough. Come back to that. Yes, there's the removal, but come back to that innate space. We're always, I'm always finding parts of myself that I think, oh, I was a little bit triggered there. Maybe I didn't realize. Okay, where did that come from? Is that something that I can work through on myself? Or would I prefer to have somebody to sit with? I'm a talker, clearly, right? I've spoken for most of this podcast. I love to talk things out with people, but I'm very mindful as to who I go to talk to. Yeah, because I used to go to my girlfriends. They used to take me to the bar. Yeah, I used to go and I'd speak with people that I respected, and they would tell me what worked for them, but they're very different to me. So now I have, people that I very much respect, who are going to lead me to those places that are going to help me. Yeah, my friends don't take me to the bar anymore. Yeah, because when they used to take me to a bar, I had issues with alcohol. Yeah. So now my friends don't do that. I had a friend recently come and stay with me, and when she left, I'm very hospitable. I cook and I clean and I prepared all these meals, and she said, "Oh, we're going to go and catch up with la da da for breakfast." I said, "Just tell her to come over here. Yeah, like we'll just cook. Then there's no noise, and we can just all just connect." And so cook this big, beautiful breakfast. Anyway, the day she was leaving, I had to head off for work. And so a friend took her to the airport. I came home and my fridge was filled with food, with all the things, like everything that I had prepared, whether it was mushrooms or carrots, or my fridge was filled with the food that I had provided. And so again, that community of people, who have you got in your life and where are they taking you? Yeah, where are they leading you? And I think, people, the focus on community gets to be huge. And if you don't have those people, if you're in a season of, oh, well, Elle, I don't have those people around me, I really invite you to embark on a season of loneliness, because sometimes we do need to be alone with ourselves. And to know that there is an everlasting God that loves you so much, right? To be in that energy, in that presence of remembering, okay, as a baby, I was born into this planet with this unshakable belief about myself that I was worthy and deserving of living. I just want to get back to that. And from that place, as you start to build your confidence and you start to expand into greater awarenesses of yourself, you'll have the confidence to go and do things, to reach out to that person that locally lives near you on Instagram and say hello or invite them for a coffee. Or you'll have the confidence to go to that event that you've been seeing on your local Facebook group and put yourself out there. Or you'll join an online program that is a knitting club or something, that can really support you in building that confidence. If you want more confidence, go and do something you've never done before and recognize that you can do it. Learn a new trick. Knitting, puzzles. I love puzzles. There is nothing better than sitting down on a Sunday afternoon after church for me and just getting stuck into a 500-piece puzzle. I find so much joy in that, right? My girlfriend that had recently had the baby, in her pre-baby getting ready, I clearly haven't had a child, and her nesting phase. And so she said, "Oh, you can come over, but I'm just doing a puzzle." And I said, That is absolute heaven for me. I would be more than happy to come over and do a puzzle. The reward system, the way that it just grows your confidence in feeling like, yes, I did it. Yes, I found the piece. Yes, I have a brilliant brain, right? All those affirmations, right? That, because everything's an affirmation, everything we're saying to ourselves, we're constantly affirming, right? And if you think about the thoughts that you've had today, how much of those do you actually want to affirm? And so, yeah, for us, just, find those little simple pleasures. If you're not in a great place, do something that you know that you can achieve and that you find joy in. That will be the quickest way to shift your state. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wise words. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Well, I'm mindful of the time and
Yeah.
your extra commitments. And thank you for joining me today, Elle. And
So,
what's the best way for people to find you and learn havening?
yeah, so havening is very deceptively simple, but if you do feel called to come and have a session, whether in person or online, you can book that at ellouisemcbride.com. And I am at Elle Louise McBride on all other social medias as well, from Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest. It's all there.
Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you very, very, very much for joining me. And I really loved our conversation and I can't wait to listen to it back again and
Yeah.
practice havening as well.
Yes, keep practicing
I'm
havening.
putting that in my toolbox today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.